Hey losers, I'm Coral. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here today with the books that I read in the first half of February. So, to start out, I've got my stats for the first half of the month. In total, I read 10 books. 8 of those were books that I owned previous to this year. In total, I read 3,801 pages. That's about 253 pages per day. The genres I read, 2 were horror, 2 were literary fiction, 3 were thriller, and 3 were fantasy. The oldest book I read this month came out in 1991. Then we jumped to 2011. I read a book from 2015, a book from 2017, a book from 2018, a book from 2019, a book from 2020, a book from 2021, a book from 2023, and a new release, so that came out in 2024. I also like to keep track of the series I'm reading, so as far as that goes, 1 book I read finished up a series, 1 book I read continued a series, and 1 book I read was part of a series that I'm not ever going to read, so that is a DNF for me. And then for the Read What You Own challenge, 7 of the books that I read this month count towards that. So that brings me to 43, which means I am 43% done. And that means I'm nearly halfway, which makes me feel so happy. By the end of the month, I could be there. I could be halfway. I'm gonna really try to do that. I don't see why I couldn't do it, especially when I'm in the middle of reading 2 books at the very moment of this video. So, all right, well, let's get into it because this is gonna be a little bit long anyways. Well, let's start with this very big book. This is House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. I can never remember the names of these Crescent City books. I just call it the Crescent City book. House of something and something. House of meh and bleh. This is the 3rd book in the series, and I think that as far as I'm aware, this wraps it up. The story that's told in this seems to be done. So it would be really weird if there was another one after this. I don't know. What can I even talk about? This is a really expansive fantasy series. And I don't know, at the same time, I want to tell my brain to like shut up and enjoy it, but there are definitely, it's like the longer I sit with it, the more things bother me. I've never really liked the main character in this very much. She's definitely my least favorite of Sarah J. Maas's main characters. She's just too snarky, and like, I like snarky. Like, I think I'm probably a little too snarky, so maybe like maybe I'm seeing myself in this character a little bit and like it's annoying, but she's just a little too much. And it's like it hinders the plot, I think, is what it is. Like, it's not just a character being a character. It's like, if she just would stop it for 1 second, like, things would go better for everybody in this book, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I don't really like the main character. I don't really like a lot of the peripheral characters, especially the ones that got introduced in the 2nd book, and the ones that are in this book, I don't really like them, and so like keeping up with them in this book, it's like, eh. And you know, I don't really know what to say. I think that it wrapped up in a fine way, but there's like these big bad guys, and this fight with them seemed too easy. I could go into more spoiler territory, but I don't want to do that, of course. So I think those are my big points with it. It seems like the more Sarah J. Maas writes these, the more it feels like fan service, especially like the 2nd Crescent City, the 3rd Crescent City, and Silver Flames. Like, those 3 especially, it's like, it's almost like she's kind of, to me at least, it feels like she's writing what an audience wants to read and less of what is authentic to these characters she had created. Maybe it's just me, but I'm getting less and less like surprised by the events in these books, which kind of sucks because like I really do and have found like a lot of enjoyment in her writing. So anyways, I can't go on for too long. So that's it. Okay, next is These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. I think this came out in 2021. Yes, this was a 2021 book, and this is a fairy loot edition, so it's very beautiful. It's got these sprayed edges. It's got, you know, like, I don't know, some design on the inside of the book flap with like the love interests and all that. So it's very pretty, but I thought this book was hot shit. Like, it just never got less boring, and I started it and I was like, ugh, like, eh. And in an attempt to figure out if I liked it more quickly, my library had a copy of the audio, so I was like, okay, I'll listen to this. And then it was like, I had listened to so much of it, and it was like, oh, I might as well just fucking finish it at that point. So I did. I listened to most of this, like almost all of it really, on audio, and it's just not good. The main character is boring, and the love interests are so fucking boring. And it's like, did anything even happen in this book? It's like it's about this thief, which is so funny because in the very beginning, the only time you see her steal anything, she does like a bad job at it. But apparently she's this really great thief, and she's so great that like the Fae hear about how great she is, and she is propositioned by one of the fairy kings or something to steal some things from like the other fairy court, and she has to lie to someone she knows in order to do this and stuff like that. I will not, that's like a series, I will definitely not be reading that. But now I know I don't like it, right? And now I can decide whether or not I'm going to keep this. Especially because it's a really nice copy. It's beautiful. There is definitely somebody out there, if I decide not to keep it, there's definitely somebody out there who would really love it if I don't want it, you know? Oh, next a book that it's gonna be really hard for me to not talk a lot about. So, but listen, I did talk a lot about this in my Bloody Valentine blog, because I read this for that. This is My Absolute Darling by Gabriel Tallent. This was published in 2017. This is a debut novel, which is kind of surprising to me because one thing I did really like about this was the writing itself. Very impressive. This is about a 14-year-old girl named Turtle, and I don't even think it ever comes up why Turtle calls herself Turtle, because her name is not Turtle, and it seems like she's the only one who calls herself Turtle. And there are some other people who call her Turtle, but it's like she introduces herself as Turtle. Like her father and her grandfather don't call her Turtle, like her schoolmates don't really call her Turtle. It's just like when she makes the only friends that she has ever made in this book, she introduces herself as Turtle. So it's kind of weird. Anyway, that has nothing to do with the story. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Turtle lives with her father, who is like not quite a doomsday prepper, but he's like a doomsday survivalist. Like and when I say doomsday, it's like he's like a realist, you know, about how we aren't treating the environment right, and like our Earth is not going to survive the way we're treating it and stuff like that. But he's also really into like guns, and they don't like live off the land per se, but they do live simply. They live in Northern California, which is kind of a strange place in some places. My sister-in-law went to school up there. Her husband's family lives up there, and a lot of people live unconventionally up there. And there are some places where it's like you don't want to, like if you don't know the area, you don't want to be just like up there. You know what I mean? So, so, Turtle's kind of strange. She carries a gun around everywhere. She carries knives around everywhere. She's like sometimes kind of violent. She's very misogynistic, and she gets this from her dad, and she has this like internal dialogue about herself like that too, calling herself like, you little bitch, things like that. So it's very sad. And there's also abuse happening with her father, with her and her father. So this is kind of a long book. And there is this abuse, and it's really hard to read. And part of what makes it so hard is this, like, that it's framed with this misogyny, and it's almost like romanticized by Turtle, and that this is written by a man, like with all these factors. You know, if it was just like this thing or this thing or this thing, you know what I mean? It might be different, but with all these things together, I think it kind of really gives me the creeps, like the more I sit and think about it. So it's like the writing was good, and I thought Turtle was a really great character, and it's not a book I'll ever read again. I really don't know like how to talk about this book. It hurt my heart really badly. It's like not a book to read. Like, it's just not a book to read. It's not a book to read if you are not feeling okay. You should look up content warnings. The way that the abuse is talked about is really strange. And that's part of what really bothers me about it, I guess. I don't know. I really, the more I think about it, the more, I don't know. I really just don't know. Okay, we got a fresh battery. We're ready to go. Oh God. So, my absolute darling, that was like really more of a literary book, and I think so was this Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. This came out in 2020, and this is another funny, like interesting kind of apocalyptic book that came out when we were kind of having like an apocalyptic like event. So this I read because the Netflix adaptation came out, and I had this copy of this book, right? And it's like kind of short. I don't know what to even say about this book. More like Leave the World Behind, more like leave this book behind, because I don't understand the point of this. I liked the movie a lot better. A rare case, right? Especially because I watched the movie first and then I read the book, and like how often does that happen that you, I don't know. Anyway, so this is about a family, and they are taking a little vacation, and it's like everyone in this book is really kind of unlikable. So they're vacationing in New York. Well, they're from New York, and they're vacationing in New York, but kind of like outside of the city, in like a nicer house with a pool, and it's kind of like, it's like kind of in the woods, but not necessarily like secluded. And while they're doing that, they get a knock on the door at night, and they answer it, and it's this couple, and they say, "Hi, we're the owners. Do you mind if we stay the night?" And the couple who are renting the house are like, "How do we know that this is your house? This is very strange." So they end up ironing it out, but it's still very weird that these people are here and like why and stuff. So it turns out that there's some sort of event happening, which is really not explained at all in the book. And I can see why Netflix wanted to flesh that out a little bit more. And it's just there are some strange goings on that happen in the book, but I really think that Netflix kind of turning it up a little bit more definitely made it more enjoyable, because this was very milquetoast in my opinion. There's no real conclusion here. It's just that something weird is going on, and there's no internet or cell phone service. So there's no way for these people to know what's going on. And this family's not at home. And nobody knows what's going on. The end. Like, that's it. Nobody knows what's going on. The end. I don't have anything else to tell you about that book. I also picked up Watching You by Lisa Jewell. This was published in 2018, and this is a thriller. I read one of her books for the first time last month, and I had this on my shelf as well, so I was like, you know what? Why the fuck not? Because I don't very often, like, just read an author's books. I don't know why. It's just a weird thing that my brain doesn't want to do for some reason, but I really liked it. And so I read this. I didn't like this one as much, but I thought it was very good. Still, this is about this is like a kind of a neighborhood drama book where it all takes place on like a street. They call them like the painted houses. I think it's called Melville Heights. And it's just like a nice neighborhood. This young woman moves in with her brother, and she kind of takes a fancy to a married neighbor. What else? I don't know. There is quite a lot going on. His son is kind of like a little neighborhood watcher, like peeper. He records like the goings on of people in his neighborhood, and he's being a creep, but he doesn't realize he's being a creep, kind of a thing. And you kind of feel sympathy for him because his home life has some issues. And I don't know, there's like some high schoolers you follow and some adults you follow, and everything gets kind of twisted up in the middle. And, you know, I wasn't really, it was one of those books where towards the end, I kind of figured out what was going on, but I still enjoyed coming to the end of it, even though it was like, okay, you know, I kind of saw what was happening, and I was still surprised with some of the, some of the connections being made that wasn't like the central, like murderer uncovered kind of a thing. And I really like Lisa Jewell's writing. This one wasn't quite as dark as Then She Was Gone. I'm definitely going to, in the future, pick up more of Lisa Jewell's work. She's got like a lot of fucking books out there. So yeah, I'm going to be reading her stuff for a long time. Okay, then this was my TBR star jar pick for this month. This is Die Softly by Christopher Pike. This came out in 1991, and this was kind of a salacious teen thriller about a boy named Herb who kind of gets convinced by his friend to rig up his like camera to take pictures in the girls' locker room so he can take like nude photos of the cheerleaders after their practice. And he does this, and when he develops the pictures, he finds a surprise, and that is that in one of the pictures there is somebody holding a baseball bat, and it looks like they're about to attack one of the cheerleaders. And that turns out to be kind of funny because the cheerleader that looks like they're about to be attacked has died in a car accident like earlier that day. So it's like he finds out about the car accident, and then he runs home to develop the pictures, and he sees that maybe she didn't die in a car accident because it looks like previously somebody attacked this girl with a baseball bat. And so, you know, does this person know about the camera? Maybe he knows who the attacker is. Things like that. This is really kind of a sex and drugs book. A little salacious, and I liked it. I like Christopher Pike's books. They're definitely not like, they're not like your fluffy YA books, you know what I mean? They remind me almost of like Ellen Hopkins. Did any of you read those, like the Crank books? Kind of like that. Not in necessarily the content, but maybe like the maturity level almost. Like I wouldn't probably give this to like my 12-year-old nieces yet, you know? But when they're a little bit older, just like I probably wouldn't give them the Ellen Hopkins ones yet. But when they're a little bit older, you know? Anyway, what's next here? Then I read this stinky book. This is The Arrangement by Robyn Harding. I read one of her books, her Pretty Face, I think, and I liked that okay. So I picked this up. I've had this for a while, and I was like, you know, like a while ago, I was like, oh, I never read any of my thrillers, so I wanted to read some. And this one is about like, this one is about a college student who is finding it really hard to like pay for her tuition to school, pay for her apartment, and like pay to live and all that shit, you know? So she finds an alternative way to make some money, which is to be a sugar baby. And she finds that it doesn't quite work out the way she wants it to. When she gets involved with somebody, neither of them are quite on the same page when it comes to what they want out of the relationship. And I just thought that this kind of was boring. I think they're just both assholes in a way that's not interesting at all. I think one thing that bothered me, and I really don't, like, this is not something I've done. I don't know anybody who's done this. So it's kind of wild to me that this book just like really kind of full on attacks this whole lifestyle. And I just can't imagine that everybody who does this is looking to make easy money, or is a creepy pervert, or is like into kinky weird stuff. And not that kinky stuff is weird, but some of the kinks that they're talking about in this is strange. And you know, it's just like all of the men that she meets are terrible, and all of the women who are doing this end up having a really terrible time. And it really puts the lifestyle in a really bad light, and I have to imagine that it's just like not always like that, you know? And which is crazy because it's like these people were both assholes. Anyway, so I didn't really like this. I thought that when it comes to light about like what happened with the murder, it was like, oh my god, that is just so fucking ridiculous. It was just straight up goofy in my opinion. So I didn't really like that at all. It was it felt like a waste of my time when I got to the end of it. A book that I did really like, this is Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. This was published in 2023. This is probably my favorite book of the bunch. This is a really like beautiful, romantic, gruesome book about a woman named Ro who is trying to get back on her feet after like a really serious breakup. She like moves states away to try to like find herself again. And while doing this, she meets a woman named Ash, who is like kind of mysterious. And Rosemary's always thought of herself as straight, so this is like completely new territory when she finds herself like really attracted to this woman. And she wants to try things out. And like I said, Ash is very mysterious, very closed off. But she's letting Ro in like baby step by baby step. Like, why is Ash so closed off, and why is she so secretive and mysterious? And you just have to read it and find out, because I can't tell you much more than that. But this is gruesome, and I thought it was so good. I think that Rosemary and Ash are both kind of flawed characters. You know, neither of them are like, I don't know, I don't want to say annoying isn't the right word, because it's like I didn't not like being with them, but there are things that both of them do that are like frustrating at times, you know, but it didn't take away from my enjoyment of the book. It made it so like I wanted to know what was going to happen like even more. And if time had allowed it, I would have like sat down and read this in one sitting. Like I really just wanted to get to the bottom of it, even though I think like it's kind of apparent after a certain point where this is going. It was like, I just wanted to make sure, and I wanted to know for sure. And the ending especially is like, ugh, ew, so gross. And insidious and sinister, and I really liked it. I thought this was good. Like this is, I think, the only 5-star book in this pile, so this was really, really excellent and short and sweet. Great if you're looking for a novella, great for like a sapphic read. It's pretty sexy in some parts, and I really enjoyed this, and I can't wait to read. I think probably next month I'm gonna have to put her, I have one of her like full-length novels on my shelves, and I'm gonna have to put it right on there to read right on my TBR. Okay, last book here. This is Those Across the River by Christopher Buehlman. I finished this up at the very beginning of the month. This is, I believe, Christopher Buehlman's debut novel. This came out in 2011. If this is truly a debut, which I think yes, okay, do not miss this chilling debut. So this does feel like a debut. It was hard for me to get through. It felt, there were points that really grabbed me, but more points that really was like, okay, come on now. Like, we've got to get through this, right? Like, come on, let's hurry up here. So in this, we're following, Frank Nichols and his wife, Eudora. And they're kind of fleeing from a little bit of like a social mishap that they had in getting together. But they go to his like a plantation he was willed after a family member's death. And this family member like explicitly told him like, do not come here, sell it. So I'm really not sure why he didn't sell it and collect the money and just buy a house somewhere else, but who knows. So they kind of flee there, really. It's a very, very small town. Economically, it's not doing good. And it's like this town is about to not exist because nobody has money. And if you're in a town full of people without money, there's not going to be a town. There's no money to go around for there to be a town. So I don't know, what do I even tell you about this? Like, some strange things start to happen. They have this strange ritual with where they run these pigs into the woods. I think like every full moon, like once a month. But now with, like I said, where it's so run down, people don't have pigs to give up. Like it's like my family needs to eat. And so I can't give up 2 pigs once a month. This is wild. So they decide to do away with this tradition because they're like, why do we even do this? And everyone's like, well, it's just something we've done. And it's just something we've done. And when they do away with it, well, people and children start going missing instead. And so you kind of find out that there might be things in the woods that were eating the pigs. And so, you know, it just takes so long to get there. And then it was like, once we got there, I'm not sure I really cared. And there was, I don't know, you know, it was fine, I guess. But I really didn't love it. And I think the only thing that kept me going was that Christopher Buehlman does have good writing. He really does. So that kept me afloat, of course. But I really wish that this would have either been like edited down or maybe had some more exciting parts in it. But really a lot of it is just like Frank Nichols drinking and like walking through town and talking with people. And yeah, that's really it. So a little, not quite as good as the other 2 books I've read of his. But the other 2 books I've read of his were really fucking great. So I'll give him this one. That's fine. This is his debut. I'm not going to count this one as a strike against the other two because the other two were so good. Those are, oh wait, there's one more. Oh my god, I almost forgot because I don't have a copy of it in front of me. This is Shadows of Self by Brandon Sanderson. This was published in 2015 and this is a fantasy book. I got a copy of this from my library on audio because I'm trying to finish up some of the series I'm in the middle of before I forget about them and have to read the whole series over again. This one I've just kind of let flounder because I don't have a copy of it. I read the first one and it's like the second leg of the Mistborn series. It's like hundreds of years later. So, I don't know. I like this, but it's like, I think, okay, so what do I even say about it? It's like kind of, I don't know, it almost feels Western-y to me in a funny way. It's like Western-y fantasy, and how do I even explain what's going on? It's like, it's like Mistborn, but a little more modern, and it's like 1800s Mistborn Western, if that means anything to you. But my problem is that the first leg of the Mistborn series was like, it felt very serious. And then the second leg, the first book, felt more goofier to me. And so it was like I really had to turn gears in order to like the book and like let go of the previous Mistborn stuff. And then it was like this one turned gears again and was like, again, like more serious. And so I feel like I'm going, you know what I mean? So that's been kind of difficult. So I wouldn't say I didn't like this, but I don't think I liked it as much as the first. There is this character in it named Wayne who is very hilarious and I do really enjoy him. But I don't know. It's just really hard for me to get a read on him. It's like my brain can't make sense of how it's supposed to be perceived almost. I don't know. I'm very confused. I do like the addition to the Mistborn lore and stuff like that. I do like that we're seeing, I don't know, some things that we've seen in the previous Mistborn stuff. So that's exciting and maybe we'll see more of that in the third one. But I don't know. You know, I didn't hate it. I think I like the first one more. We'll see what the third one's like. I don't know. Anyway, those are the books that I read in the first half of this month. Will I have 10 more at the second half? Probably not, but maybe. I don't know. Anyway, I'd love to know if you read any of these, what you thought about them, what your favorite books are that you have read so far this month. As always, you can look at my link tree if you're interested in like my social media, what I've got for sale on Pango, my bookshop.org front, anything like that. That's where you'll find it. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you later. Goodbye.